What's up, guys? This is Nick from Arch City Poker, and in today's video, I'm going to be continuing the Poker Grad School series with today's topic covering protecting your range. So what the hell does protecting your range even mean? I get asked this question all the time. Against opponents that are capable of exploiting your unbalanced strategies and lines, you must be able to protect your range. This is done by balancing your strategies and lines simply by mixing up what you do with different parts of your range. Let's take a look at a no-limit hand example to further illustrate this concept. You open raise from early position in a live 5-10 no-limit game, and a tough, aggressive pro calls in position. Let's say you raise with a range that looks something like this. So as you guys can see, the yellow boxes are going to be the combos that you go ahead and open. This is not by any means a range that you should be opening with. This is just something that I thought would look similar to a lot of players' ranges on average. You have pocket pairs, fives plus, you have all your suited broadways. Most of your, well, not most, but I would say some offsuit stuff, broadways like king, queen offsuit, king, jack offsuit at some frequency. You guys can see the 0.2 there is going to be weighted. So some of these combos I have this player hypothetically opening all the time. Some I have him opening just some of the time. So it's not an exact science, but I think this is pretty close to what a lot of ranges would look like. Flop comes 8 of hearts, 5 of clubs, 3 of clubs, and the action is on you. Many players make the big mistake of not protecting the range here and proceeding with either an excessive c-bet strategy and or an unbalanced strategy that involves c-betting made hands and checking missed hands. The problem with this, guys, is that in theory, we don't hit this flop texture with our range that often. We have many missed Broadway combos. We also have a lot of pocket pairs that have showdown value, but do not want to face a flop raise from a good player that threatens us on such an early street. We need to balance our strategy here and protect our range by continuing in a manner similar to this. So as you guys can see with the help of PO Solver, the salmon color in any of the boxes is going to be how often you are betting. The green color is going to be how often you're checking. And you can see in the top right, our overall strategy has us only c-betting optimally at about 22.5% of the time. Many players in this spot out of position are going to be c-betting at way too high of a frequency here and very unbalanced. They're going to be betting their overpairs almost all the time. They're going to be checking their missed combos possibly close to all the time, which unbalances that strategy. The other part of it is that a lot of players will over c-bet all of their missed broadways along with their pairs, putting them in a really tough spot where they are opening themselves up to getting exploited with lots of raises and floats. So as you guys can see, how we protect our range in this spot is we're checking a lot of our overpairs, and in some of them very often. Look at aces in the bottom right, for example. We optimally are only betting some of these combos about 10% of the time. And if you guys are asking yourselves, why are we betting kings and queens more often than aces, since aces is a better hand and should be pushing more EV? Aces do not need as much protection. They are not vulnerable to overcards like kings and queens are. That's pretty much about it. Also, you may be asking yourself, why are we betting the combos with the ace of clubs specifically in our hand a little more often than we are when we don't have the ace of clubs? Essentially, what I take away from this is that you have a hand that can continue comfortably on many turns, specifically all club turns. You now have the nut club draw with the basically nut overpair. I think a lot of players, specifically with like heads up, would argue that you shouldn't bet your combos with the ace of clubs as often just because you block some of your opponent's continues. But like I said, I think that is getting more into a no-limit heads-up strategy, and one that is, I think, up for debate with a lot of players. But yeah, that's what I take away from PO suggesting in this spot. But as you guys can see, you're essentially checking a lot of your made hands along with a lot of your missed hands, as you should be to a tough player in position here. So this is how you basically protect your range. So how else can we protect our range? You really just need to think about balance and being able to show up with some good hands and completed draws at any point in a hand. Here's one more quick example. Let's say you call in position heads up in a single raise pot versus a solid thinking opponent who raised in early position in the same 5-10 game. The flop comes king of hearts, 8 of clubs, 5 of clubs, and your opponent checks to you. How do we protect our range and balance our strategy in this spot? Let's take a look. So as you guys can see, again, this isn't a perfect in-position flatting range, but I have, some stuff like suited broadways, some suited connectors, some pairs, mixing in some ace-king and some queens and such. So, like I said, not exact, but this is going to be our hypothetical range in this spot. It is checked to us, and you guys can see specifically that we are balancing our range by at least checking some king X combos some of the time. And specifically a combo that I picked out, if you guys look at the bottom right here, ace jack of clubs, the nut club draw with one overcard to the king, and then the jack overcard to both the bottom two cards on the flop. This is a combo and type of hand that I see players just auto betting in position like close to 100% of the time. The problem here, guys, is that if you are always betting top pair plus, and if you're always betting your immediate draws on the flop, then that leaves you vulnerable on the turn when you check back, and you're not protecting your range in that spot. It leaves you vulnerable to your opponent being able to basically bet large on the turn and then barrel the river and put you in a spot where you can't comfortably defend because he knows that you don't have any top pair plus in your range. And then if, like, let's say, for example, a club comes on the turn and you did not bet the flop, then he knows that you can't have flushes. And so he can pretty much take most of his range and just go bet and blow you off of your hand. So this is another example of how you can protect your range. You just want to think about mixing in some flush draws here that you check back. And you guys may ask, why is it that we are checking back ace-queen suited, specifically in clubs, and ace-jack of clubs, more often than we are, say, queen-10 of clubs? It's because those combos have more showdown value. Ace-high has more showdown value. If you hit your pair, whether it's an ace or a jack, specifically with ace-jack of clubs, then you're going to have often more showdown value than you have when you, say you hit a queen or a 10 if you have queen-10 of clubs. So that's what I take away from PO in that spot. And that's just another way to protect your range. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you have questions or comments or any feedback, let me know. With this series, it's definitely more advanced concepts. These are going to be strategies and thoughts that you should apply to a table that you have a lot of thinking opponents that are playing against you, or if you have a lot of pros at your table for some reason. These types of strategies are not the ones that we try to really use in live low stakes games like 1-2, maybe even 2-5, because a lot of those opponents, you're not going to need to balance your strategies. The maximum, or the way to basically maximize your profit against them, is to just exploit them and not worry about balance, because they can't exploit you back or they can't come up with hard counter strategies. But this series specifically, in this topic of protecting your range, this is going to apply for when you play against tough opponents and opponents that can exploit you back. This is getting more into game theory optimal play and playing poker, I guess, quote, correctly, unquote. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know. Until next time, this is Nick from Arch City Poker. Take care.